So it's so nice to be here with you all, truly, truly. A couple of announcements. So I have a retreat coming up in February 6th through the 9th in San Diego, California. If you're interested in joining us, please do so soon, because the retreat is getting closer to being full. Also, just a big thank you to everyone for your donations and all your support. Truly, it's deeply helpful in spreading these teachings. And so thank you so much. So much. Why don't we all just take a moment here and give ourselves permission just to close our eyes. Just connect with your presence. Just with this fundamental sense of aliveness, which you are. And so I encourage you just to notice that there is something here that's awake, that's aware. It's vibrant. There's something here that's completely at peace. Completely at peace, right here, right now. Just gently to ask, what is that? What is that presence that is completely at peace? Just this silent, awake presence. We spend so much of our life just running, chasing, doing. And so this moment I invite you just to join me in doing nothing. In a real sense, being nothing. Not being a personality that you need to defend or uphold or guard. Can you notice right here, in the spaciousness of your being, the silence of your being, that there is this gentle tenderness, which is completely okay. Totally unharmed by life. Despite everything your body's been through, your mind, your ego, your personality, so many of us miss this basic truth that there is something here right now which was never harmed by any of it. Never harmed. There's something here which is awake, aware, it's tender and vibrant. How special is that? How beautiful. This presence that you are. This presence. And so we're just breathing in and breathing out. Just experience. What it's like to be your fundamental essence. Beyond mind, deeper than emotion, deeper than personality, deeper than gender, age, ethnicity, deeper than all your conditioning. It's this gentle, tender, Christ-like presence. And I invite you all just to breathe into this and smile. Say, oh yes, I remember. I remember what I am. What I am. I remember what I am. How good it feels to remember, to experience this basic truth, this basic innocence. I remember what I am. And so with that, you can just gently smile and breathe and feel. I'm going to speak a little bit and answer some questions. And if you want to keep your eyes closed, you're welcome to. If you want to keep them open, you're welcome to as well. You know, our minds, our egoic nature, our personality, they take this world so seriously. And the more seriously you take this world, the more inclined you will be to suffer. And let me speak about that a little bit, just clarify that a little bit. You know, earlier today, I was moving my office around, and something that I also installed a heater in my office because it's going into winter here, and sometimes the mind will look at a job, and I'm good at fixing things, building things, putting things together. My mind oftentimes has this idea, oh, I can get that done in, 20, 30 minutes, and sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours later, and we're still struggling with something. We're still struggling with it. If we hold on to our initial thought that I should be done already, that this is taking too long, why isn't this working? Life should be easier, whatever the thought is. We'll just start to suffer. It's just basic math. Basic math. After I got the heater installed, which took, I think, 4 times as long as I thought it was going to take. Excuse me. I started to work with rearranging my desk. And as I was getting everything set up, I have these little wireless, I guess I'll call them mice, a wireless mouse, but two of them. Both of them just stopped working, all at once. And I noticed just a gentle stress in my body. Why isn't this working? And then at some point I had to stop and just laugh. I said, "Oh God, you're taking both my mice today, both of them. And I sat down, I smiled, I kind of flipped, traded the batteries, in and out 3 or 4 different times. Took the USB thing out, at least 8 times. And more as things don't work, we tend to get more stressed. And whether it's something as silly as a mouse or a relationship, when a relationship doesn't work, we start to get more and more stressed, build up this big story, and we forget who the person is. We forget who we are, that we are divine, that they are divine. We also forget that there's ground under our feet. Under our feet. I've met individuals who are so incredibly wealthy. Millions and millions of dollars in the bank. This one individual I knew, had literally millions, like $7 or $8 million of jewels, just in their closet. So just incredible, immense wealth. And just utter anxiety, utter fear about losing it, about it being taken from them. Whatever the story is. And so this is just the nature of the mind. Sometimes we think it has to do with being on the edge of poverty, and if I could just have more, then I would be okay. But the truth is what you are right now is divine. What you are right now is holy. Absolutely holy. And so the great question is, just are we in touch with this basic truth? And if we're not, well, what is it? Like, what am I in touch with? I'm in touch with this pain in my neck. I'm in touch, with this argument about the holidays coming up and who will show up to my Thanksgiving dinner. Is my house clean enough to have guests over? Whatever it is, is everyone going to behave? That's a fun one at the holidays. Sometimes I've met families where they jump over the table on Christmas Eve to choke each other out, and sometimes we live in a house like that. And that is a legitimate worry, if that is, God has certainly given you 2 feet. You get up and leave. But beyond that, we don't need to be too stressed. We don't need to be too worried. Most of us live in an incredibly safe time in history. And so do you know your holiness? Do you know your divinity? It's a great question. As you wake up in the morning, most of us, we wake up to just general grumpiness. Or it's too cold, or I don't want to get out of bed. But when you wake up, you just spend some time just holding your heart in the morning. And this morning I just laid and I held my heart, felt the warmth, the goodness, the divinity. And then ask God for support. Lord, will you come into me and help me be more kind? Will you help me be more kind? Can we just start with this? Can you help me be kinder to my wife, my children, my friends, my family, those who I come in contact with? Will you help me be kinder? Kinder. To myself. How about that? That's a good start. To myself. The beautiful thing about kindness is when you're kind to yourself, your tenderness, your compassion amplifies. When you make yourself last, your compassion kind of shrivels up, becomes tight, it becomes tense, your whole body, nervous system becomes scared and fearful because it feels like it's being starved to death. Because it is. And so when we wake up in the morning, Lord, can you help me be kind to myself and others? Can you help me be kind? Can you help me see the divinity in my brothers and sisters, despite their craziness? I say craziness because, if you live here on planet Earth long enough, you realize a lot of people are crazy because they're not connected to their divinity. They're not connected. They forget. They get stuck in fight or flight or this or that. And so anyways, if anyone here has a question, please bring it forward. And in the meantime, I'll just get to these emails that I've gotten. And just a quick reminder, if you're sending me emails with questions, try to be exact, try to be short, precise, exact. That's helpful. And if I forget your question, just email me again. And that's a question to do with anything. I cannot keep up with all my questions. And so let's see here. This one's from Adrian. Hi, Craig. I find it really hard trying to articulate my spiritual experience in words. I seem to be getting asked more and more to come to places and share my experience. Does it come more naturally or over time? Is it okay to pray, to ask God to help me with this? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Before I sit down and teach, that's what I do. I say, Lord, will you speak through me? Be through me, act through me, transmit through me. Will you transmit through me? Will you shine your light? And so, Adrian, I encourage you to imagine yourself as God's representative. God's representative. And we don't have to get a big fat ego about that. We don't have to wear, an orange turban and matching, robes or anything. But humility is how we teach. And so you sit, you become quiet, and you speak from your heart. You speak from your heart. You speak from your direct experience. From your direct experience. And so if you're looking for words, I encourage you just to look into your divinity. Like, look to what's here that's awake right now. So this is a place of radical humility. The mind is thinking, oh, what will they think? Are they going to judge me? I said this very thing to my teacher, one of my teachers. And I sat down with him. I said, Adya, I don't know, all the non-dual language and the lingo and the philosophy. He said, just speak from your heart. Speak what you know is true. And that's a great instruction. It's simple, it's clear, it's to the point. Speak from your heart, speak that which you know is true. When we start to stray from that, then we get ourselves in trouble. So you speak from your direct experience right here, right now. And so any of us on planet Earth, if you feel into your direct experience, there's a holiness here, a divinity here. And so you speak from that. But what's also helpful is just to acknowledge your humanity. so you don't come off too lofty and arrogant and like you have everything down perfect. People have told me I disclose too much about my human life, my personal life. And so, but I think it's good. I think it's important too. You speak about your humanity, your struggles. Every single one of us are absolutely divine, and every single one of us are absolutely evolving. And so you acknowledge this as well, that, oh yeah, there's this part of me that does still struggle, that trips, that falls, that makes a fool out of himself, that forgets things, that says the wrong thing. I find myself apologizing throughout the day for my mistakes, my shortcomings. And so when you do this, when you speak from your heart, when you're humble, when you speak from your direct experience, use the words, the language of the heart. Use the words, the language of your direct experience. And your job as a teacher, or someone who's sharing, a leader of any sort, whether you're leading, iron workers, building a new subway system in New York, or whether you're, sitting in the lion throne of the Most High. Your job is to be humble, to be open, and to speak directly. And so I hope that helps. Okay, here's a question from, I believe it's Simone. How do you really learn to relax? Living with PTSD, being on the edge, in fight or flight is always the first reaction. I find it really hard to ever relax when I'm trying to meditate, which I have not been able to do. Yeah, that's a great question. A great question. One of the great ways, Simone, is I invite you just to start off laying down, in what's called yoga nidra. And you go throughout the body just relaxing every single muscle. And one of the great things, to do if you are incredibly tense is to squeeze like every muscle in your body at once, just to squeeze it all and hold it, for, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then let it all go. And then you squeeze every muscle, and then you let it all go. And you do it a third time, you squeeze every muscle in your face, and, and then you let it go. Oftentimes when we do this, there's this wave of relief that just starts to overcome the body. The muscles say, yes, this is what I want. I don't want to be tense. I want to relax. And so you might try starting with that. You might try starting laying down, fully supported. Some people, when they just sit down in meditation posture, it's kind of funny. They get so serious in their face and their posture and their mood. And if you ever go on a Zen retreat or a Vipassana retreat, a lot of really serious people. And so I invite you just to lay down and completely relax. The other thing is, of course, you're welcome to join us on Wednesday nights. And, I offer instruction every Wednesday night. And if you just follow, the practice, taking deep, full belly breaths, really relaxing the body, you'll find your body will eventually calm down. Sometimes, if we sit for, say, a whole hour, on the 59th minute, you calm down. The body relaxes. Sometimes we have to sit, for a couple months before the body relaxes. But just, giving yourself permission to sit on your cushion, to lay down, just assume the posture of meditation, even the posture of laying down in yoga nidra. You're telling your body, I'm trying to retrain myself, trying to retrain. Beyond that, there's all kinds of healing things. Chiropractics can be helpful. TRE is incredibly helpful. Yoga, massage, these types of things, body-based things of just really helping the body to relax. If you ever do a 90-minute yoga practice, and if you're not relaxed afterwards, Maybe you need to do the 90-minute yoga practice every day for a couple of weeks, and then you'll find your body will start to reset itself. Reset itself. So beautiful question. A beautiful question. Okay. So moving right along here. I do have a lot of questions, so I have to go a little bit quicker. This is from Michael. I think it's a similar question. Hi, Craig. I have ADHD and complex PTSD trauma, producing lifelong patterns of addiction, explosive anger, and intense emotional impulses that have wrecked my career and marriage. How might non-dual awareness and embodiment affect these conditions? So, Michael, I can say this about myself. I probably also could have just written this question when I was 19 or 20 years old. I could have said, I have ADHD, complex PTSD trauma, and then which created a pattern of addiction and explosive anger. I certainly had anger, intense emotional impulses that have wrecked my career and marriage. Yeah, I could say yes to all those things myself personally. I say that with a big smile, you know. So non-dual awakening is this moment of insight. It's a shift. It's a radical shift in perspective where you realize I'm none of those things. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. I'm not these emotions. And if you look at the mind, body, the emotional nature, the personality, it's just a big complex group of patterns and habits. Patterns and habits. And what true spiritual awakening is, you wake up and out of these habits as your identity. So most of us, we're stuck in this identity and we can't see clearly. So the lens we are seeing through is anxious, it's addicted, it's struggling, it's making impulsive mistakes and impulsive decisions. And so doing anything and everything you can to awaken, I gave my life to this journey. I think, I studied with my teacher. It's about maybe 14 years in, 12, 13, 14 years, something like that. Can't remember. It all kind of is blurry, but, I meditated hours and hours a day. I apprenticed with my teacher. I went on countless retreats. And so I said, I need to wake up and I need to heal. So I did both. I went to, massage, years of therapy, trauma work, somatic therapy. I met with my teacher a couple times a week where he would just work with me individually. I had tremendous support. And then eventually, when I had the moment of insight and the flash, the shift in perspective, it was like a breath of fresh air. There was this radical clarity. I'm not this thing. And from that moment, my life was forever changed. But my habits weren't forever changed. My body wasn't forever changed. My mind wasn't forever changed. I was still a real mess. If you followed me around, you might still think I'm a mess. My wife certainly does, And so you continue to do the work before spiritual awakening, during spiritual awakening, after spiritual awakening. We live in an evolutionary world with an evolutionary body. And so it's a radical act of love. It's a radical act of kindness for you to dedicate your life to your own healing. To your own healing. And so if you have complex PTSD trauma, you need to see a therapist. Someone good, someone who works with the body. Someone who's able to sit with you somatically. And so, you're welcome to come see me. I see my friend Cesare Aflin. She's joined in on the Facebook live stream. Get a hold of her. She does great work. She does the Hakomi method. So meet with someone. Meet with all kinds of people. It's interesting. I don't care how awake anyone thinks they are. If you get on like a Rolfing table, Rolfing is really deep tissue massage. They'll bring out layers and layers of old painful memories, habits, ways of being. You'll be crying and crying and, maybe have, old visions of anger releasing from your body, your nervous system. And so the work is the same, the work is the same for all of us. It's the same. Can you breathe? Can you feel? Can you open? Can you let go of that which is not you? And can you see, can you experience, can you step into that which is you? Can you step into the tenderness of your heart, which knows, which sees that the trauma really hurts? Can you step into that quiet tenderness, the place within you that sees, that knows life is hard. Life is hard. And when you step into this quiet presence of divinity, and you look out and you see that your body is suffering, your mind is suffering, you dedicate your life to healing yourself because you see that there's someone here who's hurting. I'm going to love him or her first. I'm going to love them first, myself first. And so healing and spiritual awakening, they go hand in hand. They're mutually supportive. Some people, divorce these two, and it causes great confusion, a great shadow. So anyways, so we need to do both simultaneously. We need to heal and wake up. And after we wake up, we continue healing. And then when you think you're done healing yourself, you start working on the species, the collective. There's really no end to it. This whole thing's a great setup where what God is really looking for is for individuals who are willing to be her light, her peace, her love here on planet Earth. That's what spiritual awakening is about. It's waking up so we can serve each other. Because, through the law of oneness, each other is ourself. If I'm awake and you're not, if I'm free of suffering and you're full of suffering, isn't it my duty to serve you? To serve, that's just how it works. And so the big thing about pain is it's an incredible doorway. It's an incredible teacher. And if we truly want to be free, we can't think of pain as something to get rid of. We just see pain as something to love. It's like a moth going into a flame. We can't help ourselves but to love pain. And when you have lots of pain, lots of confusion, it's like, oh, in one sense, you might wake up quicker. Because when we don't have much pain, a lot of times we're just really lazy. We come like a beach bum, just hanging out, looking to have good times. But when you have a lot of pain, there's a fire in your body, in your heart, in your mind. It's like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to go crazy. I have to wake up. I have to heal. I have to. It's a matter of life or death. And for those folks who think, well, just in my life, it's like one day you wake up, in purgatory and realize, oh, that didn't work. God's just sending me back to learn how to love, to learn what I truly am, It's a beautiful question, my friend. Okay. Here's a great question from my friend Jeremy in Portland there. Hi, Jeremy. Hi. He writes, Craig, you speak about Sri Aurobindo, and Sri Aurobindo has often written about this great need for celibacy on the spiritual path. And most great masters, especially in India, in the East, I guess the West as well, Christian mystics as well, all speak about this, the importance of celibacy, the power of celibacy. And celibacy is really an interesting one because it's such a dramatic, such a clear way of looking at your human animal body and saying, I am divine, I'm not animal. I'm not an animal. And the work of Sri Aurobindo in particular, his work was to transform animal nature into human nature and then transform human nature into divine nature, to be literally a light being without any animal drives within oneself. This is a huge endeavor, an enormous endeavor. And you're going to war with the strongest drive in the body. Beyond the desire to live is the desire to procreate, the desire to connect, intimately. And it's hardwired into our nervous system. But a great question on the path is, if we are free, if who and what I am is divine, what is this animal body? Am I allowing these drives to lead me? Am I allowing them to guide me? It's a great question. When I was quite young, I can't remember how old, but I think between ages 20 and 22, for 2 years, I was celibate when I was young, and then I've had other periods of celibacy throughout my path, but 2 years where it was this crystal clear intention, I'm going to do it, I'm going to be a monk. And what I saw all day long is it just felt like I was having a war go on in my consciousness. So as a 22-year-old man, your biology is going to be throwing you, just thoughts all day long of, basically connecting intimately with others. That's actually psychologically healthy, to have those thoughts when you're 22. And to try to repress them, you'll end up with a lot of trouble. To try to transform them, boy, that takes great strength of character, great will, incredible surrender to transform, your human animal nature. And so you have to be committed. And it's one of those things, if you fight with it, if you repress it, there's a long list of great gurus, saints, holy people, priests, who've developed a tremendous shadow around this one and then have gotten into great trouble. The old joke that Ram Dass used to say is, it's like, watch out for the spiritual teacher who's inviting you back to their bedroom, after satsang, to show you the pictures that they have of the great masters, or to show you the holy books, or to give you the secret tantric teaching, or whatever it is. This drive, it's just so strong in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotional nature. It's just so strong. And so the way I've come to terms with it, my friend, is to invite God into it, not to be driven by it. And this is primarily what Aurobindo was doing. He was inviting this force of grace, this higher intelligence, to come into his human animal nervous system and to transform it. To transform it. So it takes, the seriousness of it out of it. And again, this doesn't just have to be about celibacy. This can be about anything. So whether it's anger, whether it's trauma, whether it's, how some people have the animal, drive of cheating, of lying. Lying and cheating are just forms of camouflage. Like, that's our animal nature coming forward If you ever notice why someone lies, it's because they're scared. They're trying to camouflage themselves. And so whatever it is that's in this animal body, can we invite this greater intelligence to move through us, to act through us, to be through us, to be through us? I have a heart that loves, and I love, my fellow human beings, and I literally have the lover archetype. I also have the monk archetype, and it makes quite a confusing experience. Quite a confusing experience, on this spiritual path, because I've kind of gone back and forth between the two. And I've realized, well, as long as I'm going to be in relationship, how can I show up from a place of love, from a place of compassion? How can I share intimacy from the heart, not from just purely animal desire? If any of us right now, if we could be transported into like a 16-year-old boy, our skin would just be crawling with all those types of thoughts, and it would just make us crazy. But the beautiful thing that with maturity, some of those hormones, they burn off. The body, it grows, it matures, it develops. And for some of us, we stay stuck there. We stay stuck at age 16. But again, Aurobindo, for him, it was being celibate. He also, lived, in a sense, as in his ashram, in his little, I guess I'll call it a flat, because that's what it's like. In his ashram, with the mother, and the two of them lived celibate, for decades and decades, and that was their truth. But your job is to listen to your truth. None of us want to be moved, around, by the Tinder app, or, 16-year-old, hormones moving through our body. To be on this path is to desire a greater life, a higher life, a life free of animal desire, but more importantly, having this higher divinity flowing through us. And so for each and every one of us, we have to sit with this question and just ask, how shall I respond to my animal drives? Am I going to let them lead me fully? Or am I going to let something greater lead me? What am I surrendered to? When we surrender to our human self and our animal self, we can get in a lot of trouble. If we surrender, like to this last question of the impulse towards anger, or just the impulse towards, it's getting near the holidays, just buying lots of presents for oneself or others, we have this habit of just, buying too much, hoarding. All these drives are within us. If you ever look at someone who's hoarding, it's similar to that animal drive of being like a squirrel getting ready for winter, just getting all the nuts. And so are we living in a neurotic way? Or are we living from a place of truth? And truth it's on this continuum. Can I always ask for higher and higher truths, greater and greater truths? And so, that's a beautiful question. It looks like Wesley would like to ask a question. So, Wesley, what's on your mind?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Great. Right now I'm feeling pretty spacious, sort of in a witnessing consciousness.
Yes.
I feel pretty. But I've been, and actually I ended a satsang earlier today with somebody else who's here tonight, so this would be kind of a repeat question, but I figure I may as well use all my awakened resources that I can.
Sure.
And you know, just because we've had sessions, a lot of this, but it's been a pretty intense, radical 3 or 4 months, with moments of just great radical clarity and bliss that last for maybe a few hours maximum, followed by weeks of really intense agony and anxiety and other things. And so, and what's happened is it's really kind of brought up a lot of stuff that was suppressed. And the only way I've really found to kind of get to the other side is to go through rather than around some of these issues. Yeah, that's meant I've spent time in a psychiatric hospital. That's meant that I risked jail in one instance. But it gets to a point where it's like I feel so imprisoned by the darkness or the hiding that there's really no other option but to surrender. So that said, I'm kind of going through another one of those things related to money that's coming up. And I have sufficient money to last for quite a while. But I notice, and it kind of connects, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but you brought up the story of the millionaire who always has insecurity. I'm definitely not a millionaire, but I have enough money right now. But I notice that every dollar I spend just brings up this strong insecurity, and I've been following that down, and it brings up these images of homelessness. And there's actually a shelter here in the city where I live. I used to work with the homeless population, and it's way out in the middle of the desert, and it's an old prison, and it's just, in my mind, this epitome of darkness and isolation, loneliness. And so all these images are coming up, and the only deep solution, just like in these previous scenarios, that's coming up for me is that I need to give away all of my money, all of the possessions, and become homeless and go and sleep and live at shelter. And that's frightening. I mean, I've sat with that, and I can see myself doing it, and I see it's possible to survive that. And it's frightening because the only way I've been able to get to the other side of similar intense things has just been to surrender and do it.
Yeah. So let me respond to that, Wesley. That's a great question. This is a very, very common thing on the path, that what life presents to us is our greatest fears, especially when you're waking up in a really deep way. So maybe I'll back up a little bit and just say this. So throughout the 7 chakra centers, each of the different chakra centers has a gift, but it also has a doorway. There's like a price you have to pay to step into that area. It's a new, it's like a new realm of divinity. And so when the belly starts waking up, the price you have to pay is you have to walk through the doorway of fearlessness. You have to walk through the doorway of, say, indestructibility. You have to walk through the doorway of, like, am I fully supported? Am I fully supported? Am I safe? All these types of fears start to present themselves to us. And there's many people who've come to me, and they've taken this fear, they've taken it literally. And they take it literally, and then they put themselves in very, very dangerous situations, which are absolutely unnecessary. So say, for example, like the fear or the ending up in like the psychiatric hospital. Oftentimes that's associated with just the fear of going crazy. The fear of going crazy. And the space of freedom knows that what I am is not crazy. So can I walk through the doorway of crazy and realize I'm not crazy? So we'll just use that one as an example. So when I was going through this process, tremendous thoughts of just losing my mind. Sometimes I'd look in the mirror and I'd just see someone with crazy eyes, like crazy eyes. I say, oh my God, I'm crazy. I'm losing my mind. I'm going to go nuts. And I just have all these visions of just going like, just like absolutely berserk, going postal, whatever it is. And my practice was just to sit in meditation and just watch myself go absolutely crazy. Watch the craziness just burn out of me. And it wasn't something I'd just sit down and this would happen over a 1 hour period. This would happen over months and months, maybe even years with the crazy one, because, a lot of people have told me I have a screw loose, but, you just let it burn up in the light. The fear of going to jail. I've never been to jail. I'm happy that I haven't been. I don't plan on going. But that fear would come forward. And the way the ego interprets these doorways, excuse me, ego tends to interpret things literally. And that's why you have so many like fundamentalists with the Bible. I heard this comedian talk the other day, and he was, it was Joe Rogan, and he was speaking about, he had someone on his show as a fundamentalist who didn't like folks who were gay, and just going after gays so intense. And he said, well, it's because in the Bible it says can't be gay or whatever it was. And so he said, well, how do you feel about shellfish? Because it says in the Bible you're not supposed to eat shellfish, And I just thought that was so funny. Like, how do you stand on shellfish? Would you not go to your friend's house because of that? And the guy, of course, was stumped. And it's just, we make these stories in our mind that we have to go through. Like, going through means having the physical experience. I would say sometimes that's true, but it's rarely the case. The truth is we have to experience it, within our body, within our mind, within our emotional nature. We have to face it head on. But it doesn't mean we have to face the physicality of it. We just face it inwardly. And it can burn up. It can burn up. It will burn up. I will say this. You may have, like where I live, there's all these ultra runners and stuff. Some of my friends are ultra runners. They run 100 miles. I sat with someone who, she did the Moab 240, which is a ridiculous thing to do. It's like 240-mile run. And so the first thing her mind puts up is, I'll be free if I can run a marathon. That's not good enough. I'll be free if I can run, 100 miles. It's not good enough. I'll be free if I can be in the top 10 runners in the country. It's just never good enough. What we have to face is our own death inwardly. 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 And so please don't get rid of all your money and all your belongings. If you want to spend a couple nights at the homeless shelter, just having the experience. I met someone a couple weeks ago, and he was doing that. And he was gotten some really dangerous spots in Los Angeles. Very dangerous. And so if you want to do that, you're welcome to. But it's not required. What is required is you face the fear of homelessness. Homelessness arose within my consciousness, the fear of homelessness, for maybe nothing short of 3 years. Every day I was thinking about it. And I had no money. None. I had debt is what I had. And every day the debt just kept piling up more and more and more. And so I just faced it again and again and again. And I sat with it literally for 3 years. And I felt this tension and tightness in my body and just utter fear. And I would be angry at God and screaming I had her saying, why don't you give me any money to live? I'd raise my fist in the air saying, this is not fair. Some of my friends at the time had a couple $1,000,000 each, and here they were lollygagging around, and I was just shouting at God, grinding my teeth at night. I had 2 children to support, and I was having to beg from friends and borrow here and there. It was just a horrible experience. But I didn't, I had the fear of homelessness, but I just said, look, I'm just going to keep showing up, sitting with this, holding this fear, breathing into it, loving it. And eventually it burnt up. And as it burnt up, what I felt was, as I walked through that doorway of utter fear, I realized that fear, which felt so dark, so lonely, so isolated, it actually turned into the quality of oneness. Absolute oneness with life. Indestructible oneness with life. Incredible freedom. Incredible freedom in that. Incredible freedom. And so, there's another question here. So thank you, Wesley. I hope that was helpful to you, my friend. I hope that was helpful. Okay, so here's another one. Craig, sometimes it feels like the energy hits me like a lightning bolt and makes me do a wiggle. It takes me off guard. That's a funny way of saying it. Sometimes it's a little disconcerting. Is there anything to do to help it flow? Well, Taylor, if you're getting hit with burst of energy and your body's wiggling around a little bit or jerking or moving, that could be just kundalini energy waking up. And sometimes, you might, move around or jerk or dance, or your head might move, or that's just normal. You just breathe and flow through it. The other thing that happens is sometimes when our ego is holding on tightly and we get just a blast of insight, the ego kind of shudders a little bit, and that's normal as well. And so both are good. Both are good signs that you're making great progress. And so, I encourage you just to breathe, to feel, to experience, and just let it flow. When we're on this path, we're going to face things like Wesley was describing. We're also going to be facing all kinds of energetic wildness, within our body, all kinds of difficulty within the body. And, whole world's waking up. And so this transformation, it's a big deal. It's not something little. So you should expect for your mind to go a little bit nutty, your emotions to become a little bit overwhelmed, to say the least. You should expect, the body to dance around a little bit. Not many of us just have this, moment of insight and we wake up to pure consciousness and then we're perfected Buddhas. That's more the story of myths. That's the story of myths. But in order to live this awakening, you have to embody it. You have to embody it. And in order to embody it, you have to face all of your greatest fears. You have to face your shadows. You have to face your divinity and say, oh yeah, what I am is much greater than what I imagine myself to be. Much greater. You have to learn to be humble and ask for support. Support, because what we're stepping into is greater than that which we are. Greater than that which we are. We all have a cross to carry, a cross to bear. But it doesn't have to be a physical one. It does not. It does not. Freedom is an inward game, not an outer game. When we're free inside, often the outside world just falls into place. It falls into place. And so nice to be here with you all. For those of you whose question I missed, just come back next week, send me an email. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. sometimes I kind of ramble on and on. Thank you all for your donations. And if you want to make one, you can go to my website, craigholiday.com. Truly touches my heart. It supports the Sangha, supports me spreading these teachings. So thank you for myself, and thank you from those receiving the teachings. May peace be with you all, and may you all have a wonderful, wonderful night.